Welcome back to Suburban Betty. Today I'm going to be making some affordable and easy meals. I'm going to be cooking 3 separate dinners from 1 chicken. So if that sounds like something that appeals to you, do stay tuned. And if you like this content, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Okay, well, I'm gonna make the roast chicken, which I'm gonna use for the rest of the week. So let's dive right in and cook it. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is start by preparing 2 carrots. My first dish is a roast chicken, so I'm just gonna get the veg ready to go with it. So just peel off those carrots and then chop them into nice thick chunks because we're gonna roast them. You don't want chunks that are too thin because they'll burn. So I just do it on a diagonal because I think it looks a bit prettier, but honestly, any kind of cut will work. And now I am getting some potatoes ready. I just cut them into quarters. I'm leaving the skin on because the emphasis of this meal is super easy and quick. You could peel these and parboil them, but honestly, leaving the skin on is just fine. Then I'm getting my chicken ready. One of the easiest ways to make chicken taste delicious, but also make sure that it can go into lots of other different types of flavors, is to just season it really simply for roasting. And for this, I like to use garlic to go inside of it and just some salt and pepper. So that's exactly what I'm doing here. I'm just getting the chicken ready with some olive oil on the outside, exposing the wings so that they're nice and crisp, and popping some garlic on the inside. Okay, so now I'm gonna get everything ready to go into the oven. I've set my oven to about 180 degrees Celsius. It's a fan oven. If you don't have a fan oven, you can set yours to maybe like 185, 190. You want quite a warm oven so that you get a nice crisp skin. So yeah, let's get into seasoning up the veggies and then it can go in. So I am just adding in some olive oil to coat both the potatoes and the carrots, and then as well the bottom of the pan. I'm seasoning with a mix of salt, chili flakes, and garlic flakes that I just put into an old grinder that I already had. Just gonna pop some of those over the veggies. And then you want to just use your hands and make sure that everything is nicely coated. Oil really does help veggies to crisp up nicely, and it gives them a nice caramelized flavor. And this is especially important for the potatoes. So take your time to make sure that the whole surface of the potato is nicely coated. And also make sure that you just rub a bit of oil onto the area that the chicken is going to go onto, because otherwise it might stick, and that is not something that you want to be dealing with. So after that, I'm just popping my chicken on, and it's going to go into a 180C oven for about 35 minutes. Now when it's been in for 35 minutes, I take it out, and this is when I'm going to add the remainder of my veg. So I'm just putting in about half a head of broccoli and half a head of cauliflower, or 1 packet of pre-mixed, and then everything's going to go back into the oven for another 25 minutes or so. Now in this time I'm going to get my gravy ready, so I'm putting 1 chicken stock cube and about just over a cup of water that's boiling into a little jug. Then when the chicken comes out, I'm going to set everything aside to rest. I actually just packed everything away for the rest of the week at this point. And I'm going to start making gravy. Now to make gravy, you do a process called deglazing, and this is where you take an oven-proof dish and you basically are going to add in that stock you made, as well as some Worcestershire sauce and a little bit of flour mixed into water. And you basically just mix this over a medium heat until you've cooked the flour and the water that you've added and the sauce is thickened. So you want to really keep going until the gravy that you have is bubbling nicely and has reduced quite a bit. So I've sped this up, but the whole process probably takes about, 8 to 10 minutes. So yeah, just be patient and make sure you taste it in between. And this is the final roast meal, which I think looks absolutely lovely, and it was delicious. And next up, I'm going to be making a chicken Mayo Sub sandwich. And the chicken mayo portion of this really hinges on lovely fresh onion. You could use spring onion, but in the effort to keep this super affordable, I thought, why buy extra veg that I'm only going to use once? So I just used normal white onion, finely chopped, And then I took the chicken breasts off that roast and I chopped them up finely. And then I'm going to add them into the container that I'm going to keep the chicken mayo in to reduce dishes, because I hate doing dishes. And I'm going to mix it up with some mayo and some seasoning. This meal feeds two, so you can have two really generous subs, and the roast portion, if you use the cuts that I used, also fed two people. You'll see that the final meal that I'm making feeds about four. So yeah, all in all, you can, make 8 individual meals or so out of this chicken. So yeah, I'm just getting my sub ready here, which is basically just half of a French loaf that I bought, a small French loaf. Just buttering the bottom section of it, and then I'm going to pop on my chicken mayo, which tastes amazing, and put on salad of your choice. So for me, this was cucumber, tomato, and lettuce. But yeah, this is a really tasty and super quick dinner to make. I really enjoy it. Okay, now I'm making the final meal, and that is a lovely tomato creamy pasta. So I'm going to start off by using the remainder of the onion that I used for the chicken mayo, and I'm just slicing that thinly, and then I'm going to do a rough chop of 2 small cloves of garlic just to add in a little bit of extra flavor. Now I'm just putting a pan onto a medium heat and adding in probably about 1.5 tablespoons to 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and then I'm going to put the onion and garlic in there. I'm just going to let these heat up together, so I haven't preheated the pan, because while this comes up to heat and starts to saute slightly, I'm going to be taking the remainder of the chicken off of the carcass, and this process it does take a slight amount of time, but it's well worth it. So you basically just go over the bones and take the nice bits of chicken off. Like I said, this meal will feed about 4 people very generously. If you're less hungry, it will probably feed 6 people, or if you just add in a bit of extra pasta. Another great thing that you can do to get a 4th meal out of this is to keep all of the offcuts of chicken carcass that you have, because there is still a bit of chicken on those bones, and the bones themselves hold a lot of flavor, and make yourself a soup. You'll see in one of the previous videos that I've done, I've made a soup like this using chicken breast bones, so you could make the exact same soup and it would be absolutely delicious. So I'm just taking all of the chicken that I've taken off, and I'm adding it into the onions that have been sauteing. I don't really want to brown the chicken at all, but I just want to sort of bring it up to the heat. And then I'm going to add in about 3/4 of a packet of chopped Swiss chard. You could also buy a bunch, which would bring down the cost. Wash it yourself and chop it up. And I'm just going to slowly let that wilt down. And then I'm going to add in about 2 tins of chopped and peeled tomatoes. You could also use whole tomatoes if that's what you have, so like a canned whole tomato, and just break up the pieces. I'm also going to add salt, pepper, and chili flakes just to taste, to get a nice bit of seasoning in there. And then I'm going to let that simmer down for quite a bit of time. Also adding in about 1/2 tablespoon of sugar. So I'm sure that you will know, if you've used canned tomatoes a lot in the past, that they can have a little bit of a bitter or a slightly acidic taste. So adding in a small amount of sugar into anything that you cook with tomatoes really does improve the flavor. And from here on out, basically what you want to do is just let this simmer slowly and start to reduce. Yeah, I would say 10 minutes at least, but probably more like 10 to 15 over a low heat is ideal. And then once it's reduced, I added in about 3 dessert spoons of creme fraiche. You don't have to go with this step. You could just eat it as a tomato-based sauce, but the creme fraiche really adds a lovely creamy flavor. And yeah, this is what it looks like in the end, just served with a side salad. Well, I hope that inspired you to get into the kitchen and cook. And if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing. I also really love hearing from you, especially repeat comments. It's really nice to get to know people in the community. So yeah, please leave me a comment and have a fabulous week.